Today I would like to go through what is described as the 8 limbs of yoga, which is to say the 8 stages of meditation. As I describe them as stages, I invite you not to see them as separate stages, as in separate levels of a house, but more on a continuum from gross, meaning heavy, to subtle, light, both lightweight and light as in illuminating. On the spectrum, from gross to subtle, from darkness to light, is a more helpful way to understand our evolution in meditation. Not stages like we have been taught at school, grade 1, grade 2, grade A, grade B, grade C, grade F. Some of you will be familiar with the very ancient scripture called Patanjali Yoga Darshan. Darshan means vision or enlightenment, the enlightened vision. Yog, or sometimes pronounced yoga, means unity. So Yoga Darshan is the vision of oneness, the vision of our union with ourselves and with our world. Yoga Darshan. So as you listen, I invite you just to allow these stages, these 8 stages, to be placed on this continuum from gross to subtle. As I said before, not in separate stages that you have to achieve. Your essential nature is the final state. You're not identifying as a body meditating, but as that open consciousness that recognizes the value of meditation to bring the benefits of meditation into your life. The 8 stages or levels of this practice, as I said, from gross to subtle, also represent from outer to inner, from the outward focus to the inward focus. So of these 8 stages, as described in Patanjali Yoga Darshan, the first 2 are those external stages. The first one, yam, which means conscious external behavior. Now, all of us do not need many teachings on this. We don't need the teachings that it is not good to steal from someone, or it is not good to hurt someone, or it is not good to deceive and cheat someone. So yam is the consciousness that deals with external situations in such a way that we consciously treat everyone with respect and kindness. And all of us have evolved our consciousness to meet this requirement. Also, the second level, niyam, is more personal. It is about being able to manage your own impulsive behavior. That impulses may arise from within, that you have the ability, the consciousness, not to act on them. For example, if I want to hit someone because I'm angry, I'll know better to walk outside and go for a walk rather than act on my impulse. Again, we have mastered this in our lives. We have developed our consciousness to this point. The third one, asana, sometimes pronounced as asana, is what is called yoga in present day. The postures of the body. This creates particularly strength in your inner core and an alignment that brings physical balance. And in physical balance and strength, one is able to go towards mental balance. If physically we are out of balance, the mind will keep getting engaged in the physical and cannot continue its journey from the outer to the inner. So yoga, as they say in the West, or according to Patanjali, asana, is just about allowing the body to be balanced enough to not be a distraction, and also to be able to sit in meditation comfortably enough that it does not keep drawing your attention to your body, allowing the consciousness to go from more gross, physical, to more subtle, non-physical. The fourth stage is how we can regulate our breath. This is called pranayama. How when we regulate our breath, when we allow the breath to become light and more subtle, this has a great effect on the nervous system to open these more subtle, higher states of consciousness to be realized. Even within the pranayama practices, they also extend from gross to subtle. There's very physical exercises like the fire breath and various breaths where you really engage the breath, really exerting in the breath. And there are very subtle pranayama practices, and the subtlemost being kumbhak, where you suspend your breath for some time. The suspending of the breath has a tremendously powerful impact on our nervous system and is very helpful in this transition of the consciousness from gross, external, to subtle, internal. The fifth stage is called pratyaha, and it is about subduing the activity of your senses. I did not use the word controlling. I used the word subduing, allowing it to become calm. Now, religions and a lot of practices, esoteric practices and mystical practices in all traditions have addressed this need in a human being, here called pratyaha, to be able to subdue the senses. I have studied and learned not to approach it with an idea of control, which has an underlying sense of wrong, that the arising of the senses is wrong. And one then feels a lot of guilt when one cannot subdue their senses. I have discovered that as soon as you close your eyes and you just have patience, and you can just have some enduring power to sit through the restlessness without any sense of guilt, without any judgment as to where is your meditation at, and focusing on your breath, allowing your nervous system to settle. I find this much more effective than feeling I have to control my senses. So pratyaha, the calming of your senses. I find it helpful also to bring the image of myself like a mother to my own child, the senses. Not with a sense like a strict school teacher that whips the child into submission, but more a drawing in like a mother would swaddle and cradle a child and hold them and assist the senses that are helpless in the design of our nervous system, especially when they become overly stimulated. So this way, the pranayama really helps allow the breath to be long, slow, and rhythmic. And just to bring our attention on the breath with eyes closed, automatically, without your forcing, the senses will naturally start to indraw. And that is the fifth level of pratyaha. Now the nervous system is somewhat calm and settled. What to do now with the mind? At this point, we have brought the attention from the outer now to the inner. So now we are dealing with the inner states of consciousness. And the sixth stage, Dharana, is concentration. When the mind energy is concentrated and gathered on one point, a process happens whereby the concentration of the mental energy breaks through our perception of ourselves as an individual divided body being and is allowed to expand into a consciousness where we have a greater sense of self that is not divided to describe only the body, mind, self. The most recommended method for the single-pointed concentration is in repeating mantra. You can repeat any mantra that resonates with you. Even you can repeat in English, I am ever present, I am ever free, or whatever mantra describes your expanded self, not your body, mind, self. In this repetition of the mantra, two things are happening. You're allowing the mind to become concentrated, dharana, and also you are contemplating the meaning at the same time. This really enriches the concentration. This is why mantras express the nature of your true self. It's not just any word or any phrase. It is that phrase that ignites your inspiration to identify with your expanded self. The mantra most dear to my heart is Amaram Ham, Madhuram Ham, meaning I, the self, the true inner self, is ever present, meaning it cannot be lost, it cannot be made less, it cannot be divided, and it cannot die. It is eternal presence. Madhuram. In the knowledge of our ever eternal presence, such a contentment floods our reality. That is madhur, contentment and the peacefulness and freedom that comes in knowing your true self. So concentration is important in this breaking through from the identification, body-mind only, separate from other body-minds, to there is one all-permeating self. The seventh stage is called dhyan, and it is described as meditation. Now, in modern language, or in modern usage of the word meditation, we could say all these 8 stages are meditation, especially these last 4 stages. The attention has been drawn within. So the general translation of meditation, as we know it in the West, has already begun. But what expands meditation to be deeper than concentration, which means what progresses the consciousness from dharana to dhyan, is because in meditation, transcendence is effortless. There is no need now to apply the concentration in the dharana. And that's why you will notice in these meditation practices, we start with a concentration technique, and then there is a period where we release the concentration period. And we just observe. This is a very powerful and necessary part of meditation. So the whole time you are not only concentrating, you are allowing some release to absorb, to allow that concentration to be absorbed. It is like when you eat food, there is some effort, but then you relax to allow it to be digested. Similarly, with meditation, concentration on the mantra, there is still effort there, and then some period for it to be absorbed. The experience in meditation is that you are observing thoughts rather than being distracted in the thought. It is a sense of this observing power, being fully awake, fully present. And although it is not separate from what is observed, it is not drawn into it in such a way that one loses sight of themselves as the observer. The last stage, the 8th stage, is called Samadhi. Sam in the word Samadhi means that which cannot be divided. It is similar to yoga. It is perfect union. When there is not even a thought of separation, that the one watching is separate from what is being observed. It is the realization of our complete, ever-present, unchanging self. So now, as we progress in these weeks ahead, you will become more familiar with this evolution of the consciousness from gross to subtle, not by forcing, but by observing and bringing the awareness in that observing to understand the natural progression as we sit in meditation from the outward focus to the inner focus and to the innermost realization of yoga, oneness, unity,